There we are. I
All
see
right,
it.
good morning. All right, Sean, happy Friday again.
Yeah, like COVID-19, it's July 17th, Groundhog Friday. Back here with my bestie, Jay Wu, Facebook Live, here to share a little bit of love and connect with our friends and family and all of our fans out there.
Yeah, and our show is brought to you by...
Oh, that'd be Heyler Realty, the little engine that could. Our little community-based real estate firm has been blazing a trail. And actually, especially kudos to you today, Jay, because you put a client into heavy negotiations through a lot of competition and a lot of home searching and navigated a fantastic opportunity for them. And I think you have inspections on this thing today, but it's
Yes.
those kinds of activities that bring us or afford us this opportunity to come to our audience and spend the time with you, which we really cherish.
And kudos to you, because you also got our penthouse condo into escrow as well. So
yeah,
it's been a very good week.
That's going to be a fun and fantastic story. We'll see how that all plays out. But it seems that cooler heads have prevailed in that one. We've been able to navigate a very suitable sales price for all parties involved. And yeah, we'll see how that all holds together. And then actually, while we're at it, I might as well take 10 seconds. But this is a quick little summary of all the offers that we got on a little affordable house out in, well, I should qualify that, a little home in the North Valley, where we have almost 20 offers and all different types, and people really swinging for the fences trying to win this thing. I had to remove all the emotion from it, just got down to brass tacks, but it tells you that there's something very vibrant, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, no, and I am really excited because for our guest today, I've been working with Kim I met her about a year and a half ago now, frankly. And I hired her to be my book coach, and she has a company called A Story Inside. And it's funny, they say public before perfect, right? And so I put out there this idea I had that I wanted to write a book about my life story. And I put it out there January 2019. Yeah, was it 2019? And I said, this year I'm going to write a book. And somebody was listening, and she said, you know what? You should talk to a book coach. And I said, you know what? I do better with coaching, having collaborative, somebody else with me. I'm not good in isolation by myself, to be honest with you. And so I said, great idea. Sure enough, February, connected with Kim, and she was my people. It's like you just know when someone's your people, and she was my people. And sure enough, we met over first call and then coffee, and I was like, she is the person that'll help me materialize my life story into a book. And working with her it's like another me, but a bounce board. And from there, she became a fan of ours and realized that she also wanted to fulfill her dream of finding a home. And so there we go. We went into, after she helped me draft out my outline of my book, and we wrote out about 12 chapters. So now she became a client and a fan of ours.
It's super exciting, and I have a feeling we're going to get a story of a story, right? So we're getting this whole circle experience with Kim. And it's amazing to me, her skill sets have to be very formidable to withstand your general will and direction and drive. And so it says a lot about her ability, and to get the story out from you and help you through that. I think that's awesome. I'm super excited to really get to know her a little better today.
All right, let me bring her into the queue so we can have her join this fun little party.
I think that's awesome. I'm super excited to really get to know her a little better today.
All right. Bring her. Hi, Kim.
Hi.
We can have her.
Hi, Kim.
I think we have a little reverb there, but okay. Great. Welcome, Kim. We were just raving about how, we got connected and, public before perfect, putting it out there, what I wanted to do. And then sure enough, you materialized into my life. And then you realized you wanted to do something, and I materialized right back.
It's been an amazing kind of cross-pollination of dreams, all done in a team mentality, really. And that's what we were talking about before this, is that people think writing a book is this solitary, run up to a cabin and drink lots of whiskey and cry a lot. I mean, there are tears, there might be whiskey, there might be a cabin,
Right.
but you need a team, you need someone like a coach. And it's just like buying a house, I needed a team. I needed you guys, for those moments of just like, I don't know, like, do I pivot? What do I do?
Yeah, having a guy by your side makes a different impact for sure. And to have a trusted advisor to bounce board things, because if not, then you're like second guessing everything. And then that's stressful.
Yes, it is. It is. We can have the answers. Life is too short. Why should we be confused? There's really no reason.
It's so interesting, Kim. It sounds like, from what I can gather, this experience of writing the book is exactly that, what you just said. It's like peeling away these layers of our self-defense mechanisms and being able to see ourselves and our truths and literally bringing them to light and acknowledging them and then crafting them in a way that expresses what the experiences have been. And it explains a lot of where you are today. I mean, it's an amazing, almost metaphysical experience. It's certainly therapeutic, I would imagine. How did you get in that business? I mean, were you trained in as a writer, a journalist, or as a therapist? Or I'm curious.
That's a really good question. I was a movie producer for 20 years, a movie producer and screenwriter. And so that really covered a lot of the storytelling, the story structure, the entertainment value. And then I had my own personal life crises and saw the catharsis that I was able to realize through writing my own book. And I'd always been involved in books. There was a little movie called Brokeback Mountain that won a few Oscars, right? And I was faxing them the day that the rights were bought, right? So I was always a little more like believing that I could have things that were probably a little bit out of my reach from a very young age, but that's okay. That's what got me to where I am today. And so I've always been a believer of those deeper, more searing stories. So, Brokeback Mountain is not a light romp. It's not like a light romantic comedy, So that's why I got into the memoir. And then what I found the other piece was movies weren't enough for me. It wasn't just enough to entertain you. I wanted people to learn something. I was like, we have access to all these incredible people like Jay, who've gone through all these unsurmountable challenges. They can teach other people how to do it so they don't maybe have to suffer as long. I suffered for a very long time because I didn't have a solution. And then when I found a solution in the last couple of years, my whole life is radically changed. And I'm 50 young, as I like to say. So I've got lots of time to get a lot done. And a lot of my authors are in that age range, they're like 40 to 60, and they're seeing now's the time to share. I'm not too old. I'm not too young. Now's the time to really, really get out there and share. And that's not to say I don't have like 30-something-year-old clients. There are a lot of wise, sage 30-year-olds, but it's just that sweet spot.
It makes sense. It makes sense that you would cause to pause in that age bracket, if you will, a little bit more in that reflected, and you still have the energy, if you will, to be able to extrapolate the information and the memories that are clear and vibrant to be able to connect with. And right. I could see that having a very much, I know that this is, especially in the period of COVID-19, there is a lot of introspection into the meaning of life, on how am I suffering, what is happening in the world, and all this, desensitization and overwhelm, to be able to center and bring out certain memories and experiences that were crucible, things that you've experienced in your past that you maybe even forgot about how crazy and hard that was, or how scary that moment was. And yet here you are today, and you are in a different form. And I think telling that story is beautiful. I'm super curious, like, in this environment, how are you able to continue going forward? I mean, what do you do with people? Is it all internet connected, or how has business changed for you during this COVID period?
It's been kind of riding the wave. I've been spending this time getting some things done for me personally, because I believe that, someone, actually one of my clients who's a brilliant astrologer, said this the other day about there's this, sliver of light that some of us are going to just keep going on through, and we're going to stay out of the drama, and we're going to stay out of the negativity, and we're just going to right through. And when we get right through on the other side, it's going to be like, boom, right? I'm staying in that sort of galaxy. And I have been, pivoting my mission. So I've gotten really clear. I serve authors who are committed to being bestsellers. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be on the New York Times bestseller list, although that would be good, or the Wall Street, but you are committed to that mentality. You will do whatever it takes to make your book the best book ever. You're not going to just write a book and be like, and then kind of whine your way through it. You're committed, right? So I've gotten very grounded in who my client is because I bring a lot of energy to the table. Jay knows this. Like I'm on you. I'm on you. I'm like, wait, you did that? Wait, why aren't you capitalizing on that? If I had my way, Jay would already be the governor of California, as far as I'm concerned. Okay. So I have clients on the stage of Madison Square Garden in my mind, right? Do they want to go on that ride? That depends, right? So during this COVID-19, I am seeing better who I serve, and I'm starting to see those people appear. And it almost doesn't matter that we're in coronavirus because it's like, I'm taking the time to put out who I want to attract.
And what was great was even before the quarantine though, Kim Business we did our coaching via Zoom every week. We spent an hour on Zoom together. And so it was never an in-person thing. And Kim, you have clients all over North America. It's not just here in LA. So you get introduced to authors, who want to write their story wherever they are. And some of them you've never even physically met because your entire business was done this way already. So I think that shift for you was totally fine. And then what I love, and if you don't mind me telling, is your podcast is so awesome. It's one of the best things that I loved about what's happened to you during this quarantine is that your podcast show is fantastic.
Thank you. Well, the podcast story is interesting. And Sean, just to finish your question, when private clients come to me and they do a 5-hour outline, that's how we start. We sit for 5 hours on Zoom. Wow. And at first they think, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to do this. And maybe now it's harder because they're on Zoom more, but at the end they inevitably go, it's over, we're done. That's it. It's been 5 hours. I'm like, bring snacks, bring water. We're not stopping. So we're done.
Hydrate. Might want to wear a diaper or something. Right?
Have nuts. Yes, you can pee quickly.
Well,
it's true. Kim is such a great extractor of tidbits of information that you might not think is relevant, but then you'll say something because that's the thing about shared energy. And then next thing you know, she's like, oh, wait, tell me more about that. And she'll pull on it and pull on it and pull on it. And then you discuss it. She gets down and then she jogs in her mind, kind of like how you strategize, Sean. You take it in, it kind of noodles in your head. And then next thing you know, like some brilliancy comes out. It's like, how did you do that? It all kind of like had rode in your mind and then it comes out. And that was what was so amazing about Kim is I knew my story, but then she made me realize my story. And so it was just kind of fascinating, that process, because I didn't realize that was possible. But then to jog the memory and have somebody just kind of like, all right, tell me more about that. What happened there? What about before? And through someone else's eyes to see what was happening. And that it's clear in my mind, but wait a second, how do you express that? And so I think that process was really cool.
So you came to me, let me just finish this one thought, Sean, really quick. Jay, you came to me with a desire, though, to write. I did not have to convince you. I'm not in the convincing, I'm a persuader for sure, but I'm not a convincer, right? So what made you already know? What was the thing?
The thing that made me want to write? Because I wanted to have an impact greater beyond just my sphere and the people that knew me. I wanted to impact millions of other young minority women to see that everything is possible. Just don't be, contained in what you grew up and was told you're supposed to be. You can do and have anything and everything, really.
Right.
So that was inside. I had to get out.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, I mean, is it, first of all, do you specialize in the biography or autobiography, or is it all genres? Did you help anyone write any kind of prose or something, Kim?
I tend to get clients in the memoir self-help genre. It's like the I change, you change book. So see how I changed and then you change. I do have how-to clients. I have, a wonderful client right now. Her name is Amy Powers, and she's writing a fantastic book on comparing, talking about network marketing in a different way that's going to kind of blow the lid on it for people. And so that's a little bit of a how-to. There's a tiny bit of memoir in there, but she's so knowledgeable and she's so entertaining as a writer. I have one client who's going through now, who did fiction, and she wrote an amazing fictional royal romp, and there's like a twist on the royal family that we kind of we noodled on, and it's just so much, it's so much fun. Like, it's so much fun. So I'm willing to bring that in. Like, if anybody comes to me, I'm not going to say no to fiction, because that was my wheelhouse for decades.
But you also have an estate planning attorney, right? And you're helping her write out like what that process is.
Yeah. So people do come to me, like estate planners, lawyers, and I show them how to bring that unique angle of who they are into what they do as sort of like a door opener for people. And so, yeah, there's different variations of what I'm willing. But again, it's what I said in the beginning. It's refining. All the people I mentioned are 100% in. They're 100% in.
This is a very intimate process that you're involved with, right? You really get to know the people as they are. And I wonder, and I would imagine that you often kind of unravel some of what I refer to as revisionist history, like how we tend to want to quantify or compartmentalize our life experiences and make it more palatable going forward. Like, that's not it. And you're like, no, we have to unlock Pandora's box, because there's a lot of energy sitting in there that transforms into something that's very connective and significant. I would imagine you're exhausted after a day, because you're really engaging people at such a high level. And yet you found time to pursue something that was really important to you with Jay.
Buying my house.
Yes.
I mean, that the house is the heart. We say this, the house is the heart. And where I was living, I had outgrown. I had outgrown in my power as a woman. I had outgrown as my relationship with what I want to be to my daughters. But I'm a highly conservative New Englander at the heart. And so until I know the dollars are exactly where I want them, I will not move, right? And the dollars went to the exact number they were at. When they went to the exact number they were at, there was no question in my mind. How could I not hire Jay when I just helped her write a book for 6 months about what a brilliant real estate agent she is, giving community constantly above and beyond her clients? I'm like, I almost feel like she came to me to write a book so I could buy a house. You know what I'm saying?
I would subscribe to that, by the way. Jay will tell you that I very much believe in that transference of energy. Like, you're in a person's life for a reason, a season, or forever. And there are really significant moments in our lives where we're able to focus in and really help and reciprocate. And it's super interesting that you would come at this time, because it had to have been a little intimidating as you're in the journey. Like, with the COVID, did it impact you at all in your process? Or you were just like, look, I'm a numbers person, like you said, I'm conservative. So if this thing lines up, I'm all in. Maybe that's part of it. I'm curious as to how you felt about that part of the process when you were out there hunting, because you were hunting in the middle of COVID season.
Yeah, we were. And, I'm a very fastidious person. So I kept making maps and moving the zip codes.
moving target.
So I was like, we're not going beyond Vermont, right? So like at a certain point, I just kind of had really honed in, and never once was Jay like, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. She was like, let's go, let's show up, let's see. And there's something about the magic of the unflappable collaboration. And in COVID, I just was tested 2 days ago, because I felt like there have been a lot of workers in and out of the house, deliveries and everything. everyone was very on the level. Everyone wore masks, but there's still a lot of people touching your doorknobs and using your bathroom or whatever. And I got tested, and so now I feel complete. I feel like we did it, like we scored, you know? But I also do feel like one thing I want to point out that's amazing about having relationships with people where you're willing to be intimate. Before I bought this house I'm in now, I almost made a misstep in a different scenario of purchase with maybe another person. And I woke up in the morning, knew it was all wrong. And I was able to call Jay. And for like an hour, we had like a relationship discussion. And it was intense. And by the end of it, I was like, yep, this is what I'm going to do. And I moved on that afternoon. I don't really know if you could do that with like a lot of real estate agents. I really don't.
Oh, no.
Well,
it was a hard call. I was like, I'm really embarrassed to tell you everything we've done up to now doesn't matter because we're going to change.
Kim, I think you bring up something so critical, and it speaks to the whole experience, and really it speaks a lot to Jay and the philosophy of how we operate and who we are as people. But here you are intuitively tuning in on something that's uncomfortable. Like, okay, wait a minute, I'm kind of headed in one direction. And it sounds warm and fuzzy and good, but it's not right. And I know in my heart it's not right. And yet I have to be vulnerable. I have to expose this and just come to the light. And I need an advocate. I need somebody who's able to sit from 10,000 feet and then come down into the immediate space with me and give me that professional advice and listen to what I have to say. And then ask those thought-provoking questions. Jay's very good at asking those important questions. You came in for an interview. I remember actually the genesis. And you and this other person were here when you were beginning it, and it looked like it was in one direction, and then all of a sudden things changed, and I knew that there was a clarification that you had just gone through, a crystallization of what was important to you and the importance of the decision and the control that you were able to have, right? Mm-hmm. I respect that process and really appreciate that. What you did is you gave Jay permission to be that much stronger an advocate for you. You trusted her in a place where you needed somebody to soldier up, to hold your hand and say, I got you. Let me walk you through this. And that's where Jay tends to shine. She'll tell you in a past life, and perhaps this is in her book, I don't want to give up anything, but she's very much been a warrior spirit. She's a very strong-willed, determined person.
There's no doubt. Well, she had mentioned the podcast earlier, and I just want to give a nod out to a woman who I just recorded yesterday. Her name is Allison Andrews, and she founded San Diego Fashion Week. And we talked just yesterday about how she just one day just knew it was time to get divorced. Nothing looked right. It wasn't on paper a very good time at all. I mean, you have to hear the podcast to understand, but giving that power to us to be able to change when we feel it's right and be able to talk to another woman, or it could be another man, or it could be someone that's in your circle and say, I'm going to make a change, and I need to know that I'm doing this, and can it be okay? Like, are we going to be okay? And to have someone there to say to you, yeah, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine, because we already kind of know we're going to be fine because we have the courage to make the change, but we do need a little bit of that reassurance. And that's why you guys have each other. So jealous. I need a partner. You guys are amazing together in what you do.
Thank you. The courage is truly that word. It takes courage to trust another person. It takes courage to have a long-lasting work partnership. It takes courage to just give all in to, he's my work husband, I have my home husband, and I'm very, very fortunate to get to be completely vulnerable and 100% just be able to be myself and know that no matter what, unconditionally, I'm accepted and loved by Sean, by Larry, and on both sides of it, it's such a support system and a depth, because I was alone for such a long part of my life that now in my adulthood to have and be surrounded by such depth of relationships, it's unfathomable to me. But I think that goes to show with how I was able to shift and receive on the inside, because I didn't know when I was just tough fighter chick, you know, like growing up, I'm gonna survive. I'm gonna fend for myself. I got this. And then realizing that it is better together. It's better with others. I don't have to be so tough and rough, and I can be vulnerable, and I can be a real person. And I don't have to be such a workaholic, insane, just carrying the load on my shoulders person. It's kind of like, and Sean knows I still have a hard time asking for help.
Yes.
But
that's very true. That is very true.
I do have a hard time asking for help, but
I do know when you ask, it's actually because, okay, you really do. You're like, okay, I need a little perspective. I love to comment on this too, because I think I've heard some things that are so critical for other people to really hear. And that is that initially there's an intuitive part of this process, right? And I try to share this with my children and other people, whoever may come for some form of fellowship and communication or counseling. And in that communication, it's often like that feeling that you connect to, right? It's almost like your mind can fool you, but your heart really guides you. And if you really feel something, it's kind of giving you those warning signals. And it's almost like we kind of need to, as a society, as a civilization, as humanity, allow our heart to lead us into these situations where, you know, when you would otherwise be probably pretty aggressive and defensive or, you know, what have you, you can look at it and go, okay, wait a minute, there's a lot of ingredients here. But that permission actually starts with yourself. That permission is like, okay, I can be vulnerable and I'm going to trust somebody. And then it's weird because it just seems like the universe brought you two together for this particular experience. And by the way, that's a full circle. Like, this experience for Jay is extraordinarily cathartic. It is a reckoning of her past. It's an acknowledgement of herself. It's very hard for us to acknowledge what we've actually accomplished in our lives. Sometimes it's even hard to hear. There's kind of like that, ooh, a little bit of embarrassment. It's a little squeamish, but it's not. It's actually brilliant light that helps others see by it, right? So when you show this experience in your life, you're able to expand in a way that other people are like, ooh, that's possible. And I hear that in this conversation from the two of you, and I'm excited for that. And I think the idea of trust and pushing yourself out there with people, and but also listening to that intuition, so that when you hand the trust over, it is somebody you've intuitively connected with. You're like, okay, this feels right as well. I think the book writing process and this experience, whole circle, and then a home where the heart is a beautiful story on its own. And I really just appreciate you taking the time to share it with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, Kim, I mean, it's really just, and I got so emotional. Every week it seems like something's gonna just cheer me up. I guess it's just the way it is. Like,
cry every week.
Well, Jay, can I ask Kim? I want to hear about where do we find your podcast? I'd like to hear that. I'd like to be able to tune in and hear some of the things you have to say and people you're talking to.
Sure. So You Should Write a Book About That is currently a Stitcher top indie pod pick. It's on the homepage of the app. It's also a Castbox staff pick favorite right now. I only had to pay people like couple $100 to get those positions. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
iTunes has given me nothing, so shame on iTunes, but it's on iTunes. We've done 18 episodes. They're short 17-minute just conversations, like Jay was saying in the beginning, about people's stories. And I always kind of say, you should write a book about that. And some people will, and some people won't. Sometimes I have clients on that are, and we talk about getting deep in writing on it. So thank you for asking about that. People should tune in and subscribe for sure.
You should write a book about that.
You should write a book about that.
But I thought even her company name, A Story Inside, it's true. And I think even Michelle Obama said it, everybody has a story inside, and those stories need to be told. And when I saw your company, I was like, that's brilliant. She's amazing, truly. And you know, being a mom to two fierce young girls who have your back for sure. I mean, your daughters, and getting to know them through this process, they just are witty and sharp and self-sufficient, and like kudos to you for raising such, you know, strong girls who, you know, really have a voice for themselves in this world. I think that's amazing.
And it was fun to bring them on the house hunting process. And you were really tickled by my teenager who would, you know, who looked at the driveway and was like, so this is going to get like, did she even use the word power wash? She's like, so we're going to be cleaning this, right? And I'm like,
which we did.
which you even did. Like, she got you to work. That's amazing. At 14 years old, she's like, do we have somebody for this? And I'm like,
I got it.
And I'm like, okay, that's good, you know, because like you need to kind of say to people who here is capable, who can do this for me, you know, who can put this together. The other thing I just wanted to say about entertainment and books right now, for anybody that's kind of hedging on whether they should or shouldn't write a book right now in coronavirus, you know, I've got the time, but maybe I'm furloughed, or I don't know if I have the money, or I'm not sure. If you haven't noticed on Netflix, there are like part 3s of movies I didn't even know there were part 3s of. Okay. So they're rolling out crap right now because they have no inventory. So they're not making TV shows. They're not making movies. They're starting to get back into it a little bit, like slowly, you know, with the masks and everything. But books are skyrocketing because people are reading again. They're
Thank
reading
God.
and tons of books. And here's the thing. When they come out of this, when we ever come out of this, we're never going to really come out of this. We're going to be forever changed for a very long time. Even if we try to not be changed, we're going to be changed. And they're going to look to the leaders that are my clients that are writing books that say, hey, guess what? There's a system that I have that's going to help you deal with this. Hey, you know what? You don't need to go back to being a binge eater. Here's ways that you can change. Hey, you can go after that career you've always wanted. And I'm going to tell you some funny stories along the way and entertain you. You know, people don't just become famous. They write books and they work hard and they have a message and they put it out there and they market themselves. It's not some big mystery. You know, people think, oh, it's such a mystery. It's not. You just got to write the book.
Right. And tell your story and work hard because it's not easy. It really is hard, but it's worth it. It really is. And I think that the why has to be deep enough. Like my why is pretty intense and what I want it to be heard in the world. And also, I've been misunderstood so much in my life. I wanted people to understand why I have this passion and drive to really want to help people. Like that's what's the unifying force between Sean and I is the fact that at our core, you know, yeah, real estate is the job that is the surface, but at our core, we want to impact and help people with the knowledge and the life skills and experience that we have. And with our skill sets, impact and help others fulfill their dreams. Right. And that's what makes what we do so amazing is the fact that the pass-through is the real estate, yes, helping the product, right? But the journey of it is the passage of how we do that and the length of deep dive care that we have to want to make your dreams come true. That is viscerally like at the base of who we are, and that's where our deep connection is. We strategize on every little thing. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? How do you think we can bypass this little thing to get there? Because that's what we want to do. Who do you know in your sphere? Because Sean's third generation, Angelino, you know, we got this little pocket opportunity in the Pacific Palisades. Like, who do we know that can buy this house? Or here's one over Mount Olympus, you know, that I need to go to in a little bit. And it's just kind of like, who do we know and how can we take all the little pieces of the sum of the parts that we have to create that whole and make that outcome like awesome, you know, and just so fully committed to that. And I think that's something that's uniquely different in a very transactional kind of cavalier world where it's like, oh, it's, you know, about, you know, looking hot or whatever else that people do to be glitzy and glammy and commercialize this business. But there's so much depth of heart and care that is involved in really, really wanting amazing things to happen for the people that we just get all in with. And that's different, you know?
Yeah. And I have to tell you, you know, when I pulled into my house this morning, I had an early morning appointment and I came into my front yard where there's an avocado tree and an apple tree and a lime tree. And I saw two, hummingbirds flirting and playing with each other up in the trees. And then a breeze flew through. And I was like, I have a compound. Like, I was like, how did this happen? I call this my magic house. If I write a book, it's going to be my magic house. And I tell my neighbors next door, I go, I said, I think they might think there's something a little off about me, like that I might take something. So I'm always like, isn't this great? And they're like, yeah, it's cool. Like, I don't know if that's going to die down in a little bit, but I hope not, because it is beautiful to have your own little piece of land. And I told this to Jay. She knows I can get super woo-woo. When I walked into this house for the first time and I walked down the hallway, I cried. And I called her and I go, oh my God, I have a hallway, right? And she's like, okay, yeah, there's a hallway. And I said, no, you don't understand. I felt all the ancestors of this land and of my life walking down the hallway with me. This is the house. This is the house. And it was.
Oh, I got goosebumps when you said that.
It's like, I mean, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. You can make any ride you go on as deep and as visceral as you want it to be, or you can make it as superficial and angst-ridden and stressed out as you want it to be. You have a choice in this world. No one is putting that choice on you. You can make that choice. And I've come from hard times, and I'm a survivor, and Jay's a survivor. So we can speak to this.
Yeah. Amen, sister. I love it. Well, Kim, thanks so much for joining us this morning. You're so incredible. I love you so deeply. And through this process, I fell in love with you even deeper. And this is a friendship for life. So I really do appreciate.
Thank you for having me on your show. I'm so
it's awesome.
You guys are doing this. You guys are like the dream team on Facebook Live. I love it. Amazing.
We have a lot of fun with it. We love to share the stories. We love making new friends, and we love to share the light of our friends with all the other people that are in our spheres of influence. So thank you, Kim, for sharing so much with us today.
Now, if I hit the leave button, I'm not shutting the whole operation down, right?
No, I'm actually gonna remove you from our show, so then that way you can exit and like boom, like have a removal. Bye, Kim. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Tell you.
Yeah, right. Well, you spent a lot of time with Kim, and Kim was really a partner with you going into those cavernous thoughts and the different stories we have, and some of them filled with scary visions and memory, and some of them with excitement and everything in between. And it's you have to be willing to be very vulnerable. You have to be really honest. And that's something that in the duality of humankind that most people you can compartmentalize, you can gloss it over because I don't want to remember what's painful. But her process clearly has brought that out, and it's lovely to see. And it's so amazing to me that the home finding process, the domicile and everything that a home represents is a direct parallel to the book writing. Like they're almost synonymous experiences in one way, right? What's most important? What is that? It's fascinating.
Well, and I think the deeper the trust that one can have with each other, and it's true, lack of trust creates blockage in everything, right? I mean, airlines, no trust. And so you have like that whole process that's difficult. There's no trust in so many things, and it creates roadblocks. But the moment trust is there, the universal energy to just make your dreams come true appears. But to let that guard down a bit when you are in an environment where you can have complete trust in the process and the people that's helping you in doing what's right, knowing what's right, not hiding from whatever you may be hiding from, some mistruths, or if you're truly not qualified, if you truly shouldn't be doing this, if you truly are not ready. There's so many different reasons that create that roadblock for it to not happen. The moment the roadblocks are gone, and we work better when we have complete trust and understand the purpose and the why behind what people are trying to accomplish, right? And from there, boy, the world's our oyster, their oyster, because wonderful outcomes do prevail, especially right now in a very competitive environment where you really want to have to chase after it, because 52% of houses are in multiple offers. It's intense. So, it really does take a lot of soul searching, like what is important about this house to me, to figure out what am I willing to do, and what's an action I'm going to take that I'm not going to regret a week, 2 months, a year from now, So I think there's a lot to be said for, I think trust is the biggest thing in people.
I think, to your point, the idea of trust is the ability and the willingness to not withhold, but to completely exchange energy, right? And understanding, awareness, thoughts, integrity, concern, care, willingness. It's a flow. It's like a river, if you will. And you could almost describe it as a spiritual energy that just kind of flows through you to the other person. And if you block it, you hold it, you're separating yourself. You're almost cutting yourself off from the source. And that's really not, I think, what life is about. That's what's kind of wild about these days, is there seems to be a lot of polarization, right? Opposite powers, opposite opinions, opposite thoughts on how we should be living. Certainly that's true in our political environment. It's true in our pandemic environment. It's true in our economic environment. So there has to be kind of an evolving of this consciousness, if you will. And I think that's part of the introspection of writing a book or buying a home and going through the layers of what's most important to you, clarifying your values, and something that you and I enjoy doing a ton, helping people like, hey, what's important to you about this? And let's just peel that back, and let's go to what's important about that. Let's keep pulling that back and keep going until finally you kind of come to something which you identified when writing your book, which is, I want my life to be significant. I want my life to have impact. I want it to have meaning. What is life? What is this human experience? And here, when I am able to express it in the term of a story, and my story, I'm illuminating like, hey, here I am. And I am. Oh, golly gee, I got lost. Whoa, hello, Zoom. Where'd you go? Too many screens firing at once, Jay. I know, but I'm uncomfortable because I can't see you. It's like in cyberspace, like, oh, where did that go? All these scrolling messages come through. In case you can't tell, audience, I do this on an iPhone because I haven't fixed my computer camera. So Jay gave me this super gadget, which has got this lighting tool and this handheld thing. And I'm just super comfortable. I feel like it's where I should be for this type of medium. But anyway, as I was saying, it was this idea of really that conscious shift that we have to really adapt, and willingness to be vulnerable with one another and be honest. And then when you do that, you empower the other people in your life to give you real feedback, to give you real energy, to give you honesty and integrity. It's an exchange. And Kim is a great example of that. And even her daughter is, because her daughter, in her own kind of critical eye, was like, okay, but that's going to be fixed, right? And in the integrity of the process, you're like, yeah, it will be. In fact, if not me, then who? I'm going to go do that. And there you are. I mean, there's a video of you power washing, scouring that driveway. And it does look like a transformation from dirt and dinge to something light and bright. And it was kind of cool to watch you watch, but that's also our commitment to our people. I mean, we'll go to great lengths to make things happen for people.
Oh my God. I mean, you were moving like mattresses and boxes out of, and then, the hoarder house, they got to go in there and just, I mean, the things that you've trenched through to just grind it out and do, moving the boxes out of the garages or taking it to Goodwill. I mean, seriously, I think that you and I are not scared of any manual labor. That's for darn sure. We grew up working hard
for sure.
out in the yard work or whatever it was. And I knew I grew up mowing the lawn and chopping wood because we only had girls. There were no boys in our family. So me being
and you were the oldest one. So a lot of that rested on your shoulders.
Yep. So working
which
hard,
I think,
definitely.
I'm hoping we'll be able to read in the book. We'll get some of those stories, which I think are important to understand. Your particular journey is the American dream, if we want to define it. Which now the American dream is changing, but you really are as truly a first generation immigration to the U.S. You came here at whatever age you were. I don't want to give up any of the book, but having to replant, reestablish, and create roots, and then realizing these roots are not my roots. This is not what I want for myself. And I'm going to make this journey. And it was painful and scary and frightening. And oh my God, a leap of faith. But then it's like, as you just let go, your wings expanded and you flew, and now you achieve, you own your own business, multiple businesses, by the way. You have the mortgage consulting side too, Mortgage Dreams, that you've done forever. Your husband has his own very successful business. You built a tremendous life together with your two boys. You have a beautiful home that you worked really hard to originally achieve. And by the way, talk about a transformation, because that was the ugly duckling that became the swan, and you have it, and it's designed. And what's super interesting is it's not designed for you. You built your house to bring everybody else into your house and to bring your family and friends together. And that's that connectivity and that exchange. So your life experience has taught you so much of that. And I think in this day and age, even though you can wear a mask, you can still communicate and connect. I can't get that on right. There we go. Takes a second. But you can still communicate and connect with people. It's important to wear a mask so that you can do that. They don't have fears or anxieties or potential contamination. But how valuable that is in this day and age. Because we're missing that. I was thinking about my wife and a good friend of hers, lovely, one of our dearest friends, high-powered, super successful person, and has a major title at a major studio, but is a little bit isolated, and there's some loneliness and some sadness, and all the business successes and all the other material things that she's able to accomplish don't fill her. It's caring and connecting with people that bring fulfillment. It's that ability to teach and to share and exchange energy that bring that kind of fulfillment. And we do that through real estate. To your point, going through a hoarder's home is one part archaeological dig, because you just never know what you're going to come across. And I have seen some amazing things. And then there's other parts of it where there's tragedy, and there's great confusion and suffering. And you relate to it. But in our business, you have to be willing to do that. One of the properties that I think we're going to be listing here soon, a townhome with really great potential in Santa Monica, the professor has been there for 35 years. He's a professor of music at Berkeley, or formerly. He's a very intellectual guy, has actually trepidation about leaving, has another home in another part of the state, loves it there, prefers living there, but even leaving his old home. And so we have to pull away the layers of that, give him the permission, give him the tools. Hey, we'll take care of that. I'll put that on a U-Haul truck. I'll drive it to slow for you. No big deal. Easy peasy. I love to drive. You know that. So what can we do to be that above and beyond for people? And that's the commitment in this industry. And I think that's the difference about our little firm and the people that we attract, is we are committed to making the world we live in a better place in our little microcosm, in our little slice of it. Like, what can we do? Can we beautify a park? Can we beautify the streets? Can we make a festival for the community? Can we support the local businesses? And then do it through this medium. And really, the story of Kim is a great story that people needed to hear, because Kim's story with you came on like that. You were going into experience. I want to write a book. The universe provided you the tool. All of a sudden, you go into the experience, and as you're connecting with this person starts to recognize, I want that experience, heads in one direction. Somewhere in the middle of the stream goes, oh my God, that's not right. I need to make a change. Trusted you. You listened to her, advised her, and she's accomplished the dream. And she's created a place where she and her girls are enriched and empowered. And it's everything that a home really represents. When you live in it, that's a domicile. It's a safe space where you can love and nurture and grow, yourself and others in your life. So I know I went on a 5-minute spiel there, but it's super exciting. I feel so connected to it, and it's so important. And I just want people to recognize that's what motivates us. That's who you and I both are at our heart, and what we'll do for our clients.
Well, speaking of transformation, you took what was going to be a parking lot 10 years ago for the train station into Westwood Greenway to actually see activity there and the beautification that's occurring. I haven't been out very much, but to see it online that the Greenway is coming to life. I mean, tell me a little bit more about how that's progressing.
Well, so for those that don't, thank you for that, Jay. I appreciate that. And it is a labor of love. So I live not too far from the Westwood train station. That's basically where the Expo line, the Metro line, meets Westwood Boulevard. And there's a station there. It's one of the few pedestrian stations, meaning there are no parking lots. And the original idea was that on both sides of that train track, there was somewhat unincorporated land. There was abandoned road. There was an abandoned alley. There was a right-of-way. Sanitation had some of it. Department of Transportation had some of it. The county had some of it. The city had some of it. So, but what's interesting in the genesis of this was our community involvement. you and I got involved with wanting to be a part of this community. We didn't want to just let people make decisions and not participate. We threw in through our neighborhood council efforts and through other places where we were, contributing or sharing or speaking up. And I was invited once to listen to somebody and talk about something. And I chimed in what my opinion about this thing was. And all of a sudden this group approached me and said, "Oh my God, yeah, you're a spokesperson. You got it. You get the vision. We need to be able to get this up the chain of command. What can we do?" And it just so happens I surrounded myself with these people who are much smarter than I am, which is a blessing. And it was super interesting because they had all these pieces of the puzzle. They just didn't know how to maneuver it politically correct.
And but you can articulate, right.
Yeah, and make it so that everybody shares the vision. And it was actually, there's a fun story about it. And I'll wait till it's actually, the park is officially open, then I'll share that story. But there was very much a Wall Street moment with this power play that took place that I was the architect of. So it was a little like pat on the back. It was a lot of fun to see it happen, but it shifted everything and it brought it into motion. So the Westwood Greenway was really this project of taking this space that was so hodgepodgey, and instead of letting it being a parking lot for cars and a station, which would have increased congestion and traffic in the area, to actually convert it into green space, which in this city is super far few in between. Like there's no green space that's not designated. There's very little open space not accounted for. This happened to be one. And because I live in proximity, because I can walk that little train station, I became very outspoken about it. And the people I collaborated with had this vision. And one of the researchers found that there was a dry stream that ran underneath there actually, excuse me, it's not even dry. It runs, it's a very small amount of water, 2 inches of water, but it's always 2 inches of water, probably about 10, 12 feet deep underneath the train tracks. And when he did that, the other person discovered, well, wait a minute, there's California law. If you know anything about California law, the number one law in the state of California has to do with water rights. There's more written about water than any other law. So these people discovered that there was a way to be able to tap that, and then really understanding that because there's a whole drain system there, like as into the ocean by Iona Creek, that we could clean water, we could clean runoff, we could clean water before it actually goes into the Iona Creek and then gets into the ocean. And we could do it through a bioswale, plants that are able to take out heavy metals and toxins and poisons and extract them out of the actual water, thereby cleaning the water and then helping it filter through the natural soils process so that when it does circulate all the way through, it actually goes into the spillway clean. And that project was supported by Heal the Bay and ultimately got some funds from Prop O and some other matching funds. And there were a lot of people that contributed to that. And the other people on the Westwood Greenway Committee, they are outstanding. I mean, these people are just, I look at the work they do and I go, okay, I have a standard to raise, because they just hold this standard. I mean, I saw a communication today, which was talking about, management going for the next 3-4 years. Like, how do we manage the weeds and how do we make sure the flora and fauna, we're not going to have any problems with people abusing the space, et cetera. But I will tell you, it will be a showpiece. The city looks at it as a showpiece. Actually, the county and the state look at it as a showpiece.
They did mention it in the West Side Neighborhood Plan, a webinar yesterday they had about the West Side areas, and Westwood Greenway was one of the green belts that they mentioned in their presentation. So just so you know,
I didn't know that.
City for sure. Yeah, city planner. I mean, it was a 2-hour webinar or so, but I wanted to have a voice, of course. And this is the Westwood, West Side area, Palm, Mar Vista, Venice, and Westchester. So they kind of had those 4 areas that they were going to do. They're doing a review. It's all available online. Public comment is until August 31st. And so if you have any, comments, the whole presentation, the webinar of like our area and what they mentioned, of course, in the greenbelt that exists in LA, it's all on there. And the fact that if you have something you want to voice, whether it's about parks or homelessness or these beautiful areas that they want to create, because the visual graphics are pretty lovely, what they're planning to do. Of course, so much is around affordable housing. It's all on the West Side Neighborhood Plan online. So it's all through LA City, and they're a little bit behind, obviously, in terms they had a 3-year, and they started this, I think, 3 years ago. So they're almost up in terms of their planning stages of things. But it was dry, but it was worth kind of understanding what the makeup and what they're looking at to create here on the west side. So that was cool.
Yeah, to your point, if you drive down any major boulevard and you see all of a sudden there's a 4 or 5 story residential building, you're like, whoa, that's Overland Avenue, and that's 5 or 6. That looks like it's 65 feet tall. Yes, it is, and this is creating by how, and this is, it's painful. Growth and change are not easy, and we all have to accommodate and move in this new thing where, we know that a lot of the issues have to do or go around affordability, and the lack of inventory creates less affordability. And so the idea of building some other stuff in some of our space, I've certainly heard a lot of conjecture that a lot of retail businesses may really suffer this second set of closures during COVID-19. And if they do, I suspect, and I can look across the street from one of the buildings. I know she's leaving the business. I know that they're living a catty corner away. They're leaving too. So I know some businesses are going to close. Well, what do you do with this fallow space if you don't have retail? Like even the death of a mall. A mall is really kind of more now for entertainment purposes, but I don't know about you. I would rather go home and watch Netflix in the privacy of my own home than go to a movie theater and be exposed potentially. And even to a degree, as much as I miss restaurants, and I guess we can experience them on the outside and when they're able to do those in the al fresco gardens that they're all creating.
Which is a lovely experience, by the way. I have to say, I've been to the 6 outdoors. They have this whole the parking spot they have behind their restaurant. They laid down the artificial turf, put some picket fences, and their tables outside. And gosh, it was so nice to just have that experience, to be served, and the food is awesome. And they actually are going to have their 3rd series of drive-in movie theaters this weekend. They're playing Lost Boys on Friday and Twister on Saturday. And this new vendor they got, because the first time the sound wasn't great and you couldn't see the screen, but now they have it projected pretty big on that Citibank wall.
Yeah, they do.
Fantastic. It really is a fun thing to do, to get out and experience. So
well, I think that's so important, Jay, and it's really part of the heart and soul, speaks to who we are and what we are for our community. And that's one of the messages to really share with our viewership is like, look, do what you can to shop and support local. The little businesses, they're all on the ropes. There's just no way they're not. It's very hard to adapt. Oh, there'll be some thrivers, but mostly people are suffering. And that's true all the way around. And the economic whiplash of COVID-19 may be even more devastating than the actual infection and disease itself. But either way, the pandemic can be economic as well. And so when we do these things and we push ourselves a little bit, we support these lovely people that help build the identities of these different communities throughout the city. It just so happens where we have some historical ones like Apple Pen or Marty's, or, the Food's Excellent, or Stalking Horse, or the 6. These are fantastic. John O'Groats, Deja Brew. We're very fortunate. There's a lot of great food around here that we're able to experience and share, but they won't survive without us. And there's just so much takeout people are going to be doing. So if you get a chance, be a part of your community, walk around safely, do what you can to practice safe distance, and have a beer. I'm looking forward to that. That's on my list today. And I have to figure out if it's going to be the Stalking Horse or the 6, but it's going to be one of the 2 places that have a nice cold beer. I'm actually going to get a second cardio in so I can earn it.
Good for you. I got mine in first thing this morning, so I'm feeling pretty good. I actually have the whole afternoon of home inspections with my buyer, so I'm excited to spend that time with him and walk through this house this afternoon. And actually, I got asked to go over to Mount Olympus right after the show, actually, to check out
that view property up there. Yeah, it's a view property. That's the other thing too, just FYI for the audience, we do get some proprietary things. We get first looks through extensive networking and professional networking, most notably that Jay does through her different organizations, of which she tends to chair all of them, but whatever. But we get these things, and we have seen some amazing opportunities, if you will, that if you are in the market, somebody's thinking about investing and wants something unique. This one on Mount Olympus has jetliner views, like you can just see forever. And the way that the deeds are written up there, it'll never be obstructed. Nobody can build tall enough to ever obstruct those views. And that's a nice thing to have, a little distance of perspective, but still be close to the city and have all the access to things. So I'm excited to hear how that goes for you, for sure. And that's the other part too. We are an essential business. Housing is a core element of the general economic scenario for Los Angeles, for California. So we do practice very safely and disinfect a ton as we go. And we have forms and disclosures and information and guidance, but we are finding people aggressively transacting. So don't be afraid to make transition in time. This could be like a wonderful time in history to make a change.
Rates took another dip again for mortgage rates. And so it's just providing that affordability for folks to get into something now that will be very expensive if rates start to go up. And so I think that all compounds to create this opportunity to make some shifts. And, you know, we can facilitate those in a manner that, you know, we're such caretakers. We just make it as seamless as we can for people. And I know that how much work it goes into doing that, but it's definitely a labor of love for sure, and wanting to create those opportunities for people. So for sure.
Well, I know we're going to wind down and say goodbye in a minute, which is sad because the time just flies. It's just like I'm like, what? It's what? Wait, Kim, was that like a year ago already or 10 seconds ago? Like, time is so distorted. But I actually wanted to share one other message. You and I have people we're close to that are experiencing all kinds of different difficulties in this time. And it's hard to be connected with everybody as we're all staying distancing and respecting each other's spaces. And we know that there's a lot of dissension and disagreement, not a lot of civil discourse relative to the state of affairs, whether it's being our country, our city, our politics, our economics, what have you. But if there's nothing else, if we could implore upon you to really venture forth with kindness, with a smile behind your mask, with light in your eyes, and treating one another the way you want the world to be. It's important. We just don't know the story and the weight of the world that everyone else is feeling. And I think about one of the people connected to this show, and our heart really goes out to the life experiences they're now having. And we want to share connectively and say it's important to exchange that love and be there for each other. Because again, you don't know what the weight of the world is people are carrying, but we all have to carry something. It's a burden no matter what. And love is what's going to get us through. And that's the message of who you and I and what we are.
Yeah. So well said, John. Really, I mean, that is, you're the best. I don't know how else to put it. You're just the best. Just love you, man. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Likewise.
Till next time.
Good luck with those inspections. I'll talk to you later, I'm sure.
Bye.